that would mean that the young people, who many of them have quite understandably and vocally said this is our future, we should have our say, some of those would now be in a position to vote. Rachel Venables has been among them at the Hammersmith Academy in London, joins me now. Rachel.
Nick, of course, we know the perception that young people, they're all Remainers, they're all pro-EU, anti-Brexit. So I'm now in a room with some 17, 18 and 19-year-olds. They're all in year 13 here at the Hammersmith Academy in West London. Now, guys, quickly to start, snap poll. How many of you would have voted Remain if you were old enough back in 2016? Surprising. Every single hand, 5 of them straight into the air. Now, guys, talk to me a little bit about how you felt, first of all. You didn't get a vote back then. How did you feel the morning afterwards?
I think it was mainly disappointment, because a lot of us felt that because we didn't get a vote, it was kind of unfair. So the rest of the country almost let us down because our voices weren't heard.
OK, thanks for that, Charlie. Now, Jade, I want to ask you, you guys didn't get a vote before. You would have voted for Remain, and you've watched the last 2 years of politicians moving closer and closer to Brexit. How do you feel, or how did you feel watching Theresa May's defeat last night, knowing where we are now?
I mean, I think one point is that we definitely weren't surprised. Our voices weren't heard back then, and they're still not really being heard now. We have been excluded from the discussion, and if there is one thing to take away from this entire Brexit, it's that young voices should be heard. So
on that point, the way to get your young voices heard, of course, is some sort of second referendum, a people's vote. It's actually split. Even though all of you would have voted Remain before, you've been disagreeing this morning on whether or not we should have a second referendum. Calvin, I know you don't think we should. Explain to me why.
I think the people have had their vote. I think a second referendum would seriously undermine faith in our democratic institutions. I think it would undermine faith in the parliamentary system of government itself. I think it would have unintended consequences. I think the Scottish referendum, another independence referendum, could become a real possibility if we have a second EU referendum, and I think it could lead to the breakup of our union even more. OK, now throughout that, Mohammed, very politely, you were disagreeing, shaking your head. You want a second referendum. Tell me why.
I want a second referendum because I believe that if we've been misled, we should be able to have a second vote. For example, we were lied to, the public were lied to. NHS, £350 million a week, we were told it was going to be given to the NHS. That wasn't given. Nigel Farage went on GMB the next morning and said, that's not happening. So and there were many other lies, I can't remember right now, but there were many other lies. So I think because we were misled, we should be able to get a second vote, and younger people should also have their chance to vote. I wasn't able to vote in the referendum, but in the first referendum, but if I was able to vote in the second, I'd vote Remain.
You want another vote. Shania, what about you? Do you want another vote? And if young people could vote, the younger people right now could vote in a second referendum, what do you think the outcome would be?
Even though I would have voted Remain back in 2016, I feel as though we shouldn't have a second referendum, only because, as Calvin mentioned earlier, it would undermine the first referendum, and it would lead to so many other sort of questions being put in Parliament, and it would just take more time, and the union would just end up being split.
Fantastic. And just a final snap poll, I'm going to go around each of you. How would you vote in a second referendum?
Remain.
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 Leave.
There you go. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks. He's not going to be popular. LBC's Rachel Venables reporting the Hammersmith Academy in London. Thank you to the students as well. That last one. Leave. He's racing off.